Hello, people. This is Edward King, and welcome again to another edition of my series, The Inversion Perversion. What you're looking at is the inside of the motherboard that all of this is operating on, and I just thought I'd give you this because if I gave you something that would probably not be all that interesting to you, you would carry on with whatever it is you're doing and hopefully still listen to what I have to say. I'm sure many of you are clearing out your email boxes and doing various other multitask projects and really don't have the time to look at somebody who's trying to make a scene on video, because if you are looking for somebody who's trying to make a scene on video, you've come to the wrong place. But if you have a little time to listen to someone who has something they want to share because they think it's very important, and I really do believe this is important for not only you, but for any spouse you may have, or your children, or just society in general, I think that you could profit from listening to what I have to say here. This is my own way of contributing to my community and to the rest of the world abroad with respect to families, marriage, society, etc. I'm a father of 5 children. I certainly care about my children. Sometimes you know how it is when, if you're a parent, you would. Your hands are tied. There's not much you can do with respect to influencing your children once they're growing and flown the nest and doing their own thing. But while your children are young, perhaps maybe you could take some of this wisdom that I'm about to impart with you to heart. Today's topic surrounds a very old cliche that has many of us have grown up with over generations. It was around for probably about 100 years. And that cliche is what is good for the goose is good for the gander. Now, this is a cliche, and there's a reason why cliches tend to stick around, largely because they contain a very hardcore element of truth. And some of you may be surprised to hear me agree that what is good for the goose is indeed good for the gander, if it is indeed good. And so there it is. Yes, what is good for the goose is good for the gander. And this cliche, of course, pertains to not really geese, but men and women. And that which is good for the man is also good for the woman. And I might add, it's also good for children. Now, having said that, I think we should look into this cliche a little deeper, because what's happening now is the neo-feminist misandrists are trying to use this old cliche to justify themselves in laying claim to things that pertain strictly and directly and essentially to the male. And there are some odd fellows out there, very queer fellows out there, very strange fellows out there that are trying to use this cliche to say that anything that applies strictly and essentially to the female also applies to them. Now, this is, of course, a great lie, for lack of a better word. This is a great delusion. This is a twisting of facts. When a man is allowed to have those things that define him as a man, and he is permitted to adhere to those things that are strictly male and have no place in the female domain. Okay, he benefits and he prospers, and because he benefits and prospers, so does the woman. Likewise, when the woman is permitted to have those things that are strictly pertaining to the domain of the female, she prospers, and because she prospers, he prospers. And the reason for this is because men and women are both human beings. And guess what, folks? So are children. So, even the goslings prosper when what is good for the goose is good for the gander. When things are not good for the goose, they're not good for the gander. And when things are not good for the gander, they're not good for the goose, and they're not good for the goslings either. So I think we should keep this cliche in perspective and not use it to twist the facts, because there are things that pertain strictly to being male, and there are things that pertain strictly to being female. Long live the difference. Now, we can see in the metro/unisex agenda the onslaught and exponential regression of our society occurring because of the misinterpretation of many cliches. And what this is in my opinion, okay, I'll give it as my opinion, but it's an undermining of those traditions that prove to be healthy and beneficial to society as a whole. The cliche in and of itself is fine. It's the twisting of the cliche, what is good for the goose is also good for the gander type of thing, that does all the harm. It's the twisting of this cliche being used to say that, all things that pertain directly to the female are, also pertinent to the male, and vice versa. I've noticed that there's a real inequity occurring among gender today, and that equity is resting largely with the female gender. That is to say that the woman's attitude is what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine. And that's wrong, okay? And there are things that were once strictly male and belonged in the domain of the male that women have usurped and subverted and inverted and perverted. And once again, what we are dealing with here is an inversion, which results in a perversion. The process is inversion. The product, if you will, is perversion. And we can see now that we are reaping the fruits of that explosion that occurred back in the 60s, and it's falling on our heads. Lesbianism, male homosexuality, pedophilia, bestiality, all these things are on the increase. And this is the result of inversion perversion. The bottom line, again, I'm going to say it again, is confusion. When you confuse the domains, there's really not much room left for definition. When women start walking like men, talking like men, acting like men, that's perversion. Okay? When men start acting like women, walking like women, talking like women, behaving like women, that is perversion. Plain and simple. That's the bottom line. It is perversion. But the process is inversion. And this is a very real syndrome that is occurring in society today, and it's destroying our children. And we can see the syndrome becoming full blown. It's out of control. It used to be that these things were so rare they were hardly even spoken of. But now, everywhere you look, it's all around you. It's in your music. It's in your television. It's in your reading material. It's in all the latest fashion magazines, whatever have you. This is being deliberately fed to us, folks. This is part of an agenda. This is part of a program. None of this is accidental, but the purpose, the goal, the directive is to confuse the genders. It is to confuse the people. It is to confuse society so that nobody is really in a position to help themselves or think for themselves or, my goodness, actually build a healthy family. And the reason why those powers, quote unquote, powers that be, don't want us to build solid and strong families with good, healthy sense of identity and a sense of gender is because they are less easily manipulated and less easily farmed out as merchandise and placed upon the treadmills of our tax dollar generators. But when you can bust up a family, when you can remove the man from the household, this is proven. Psychiatrists have done tests on this all the time. The women and the children are that much more easier manipulated and controlled by various agendas that are actually initiated by certain elite members who are trying to run society, own society, and put you and your children into slavery. Seriously, you cannot enslave the progeny of a healthy family when the head of the household is operating his home and when he's taking charge of his own. So what you got to do is you got to remove the man or bring him down and destroy anything that he might identify his manhood with so that he is weak and easily manipulated. Then you can get to his children and you can own his children. You can own his wife. You can own it all. And this is the deal. This is what is really occurring through commercialism, through media, through all the information sources we're getting today. It's there. What is truly good for the goose is truly good for the gander. But what they're telling us is good is another matter. And I cannot stress this enough. Friend, please listen. It's good for a male to have things that he can identify with that are strictly in the domain of manhood. It is good for women to have things that they can strictly identify with as being in the domain of womanhood. And these are healthy polarities that actually complement each other when they are polarized. Now, there is common ground between both genders, and of course, men eat and women eat, all right? So it's not strictly a male thing. It's not strictly a female thing, but it's certainly a human thing, all right? So in this respect, what is good for humans is good for humans. It's good for children too, because guess what? They're also human. So there it is. Please don't let anybody use this cliche to twist what is healthy and what is good. That's my little bit of advice for you today. And one more time, here we are again, looking at the process that I call the inversion perversion. Stay tuned. There is more to come. God bless you, and have a great day in Jesus.